Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Mansfield School Building Committee meeting. We're going to call this meeting to order. Today is April 14, 2022. The first two items on our agenda are the approval of the minutes from the last two meetings. We have minutes from the March 24 regular meeting. Kathy, move to approve. Okay, is there a second? Steve, thank you. Are there any corrections to the March 24 minutes? Okay, seeing none, then all in favor of approving the March 24 minutes, please give me a sign. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, that's Chris Kiefner, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I'm having a lot of computer issues, so you're on my phone.
We can hear you. So okay, if you can't see us, we can at least hear you. Okay, then that brings us to the April 7 minutes for our special meeting. Is there a motion to approve the April 7 minutes? Thank you, Chris McDevoe. Is there a second? Kathy, thank you. Are there any corrections to those minutes?
Randy, this is Adam. Just one quick question for the committee with regard to the trees. So option 2 with the smaller trees was selected, or I just wanted to confirm the direction from the school building committee, or at least the flavor of the discussion. What I understood was that the various SBC members were contemplating the smaller tree options, but the general flavor appeared to be wanting to explore potentially an additional set of thuyas or hedges or what have you at a future date. Is that generally correct? Then,
yes.
We can reach out and explore that.
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
Any other clarifications? Okay, then all in favor of approving the April 7 minutes, please give me a sign. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you. All right, well, that brings us to our OPM update. So Adam, I'll let you.
Yes. So good evening, everyone. I'll give a very brief just summary of the various ongoing activities for the building and outside the building. But then we'll largely yield some of my time for some others to speak with regard to schedule. So just in general, current activities going on the site, continuing the installation of vapor barrier around the building. They've transitioned from the larger area B over to area A. The next layer would then follow the sprayed on air vapor barrier with some insulation, some nail base insulation. The interior of the building, there's been good progress as some major concrete pours were ongoing today with the entirety of the floor in the gym. And interior walls are being prepped to be installed. They look like they were starting today that they might be installing some of the interior walls in the front office area A portion of the building. Additionally, the roof decking and the beams at the gym and the area above the cafeteria has been resolved. So the roof decking is being put in place now, but those appear to be past the issues where there was an issue with some of the structural connections. For geothermal, all the various approvals from the town, Kohler Ronan, the grout testing, all that has been reviewed and signed off on. So it appears that those geothermal issues are now behind us with the fixing of those issues. Outside the school building, intersection work at Warrenville Road and 195 is ongoing. I don't know if you've been around in the area, but there's state police and flaggers and lots of starting the demolition of portions of the roadway is ongoing right now. That'll extend through early May is the current schedule. In terms of other activities related to construction, there's been some initial meetings regarding the demolition of the old Southeast building and trying to get out ahead of some of the abatement of asbestos containing materials inside the building. So the Newfield and the hazmat consultant had a meeting, and they'll be doing some additional, or not additional, they'll be doing some preliminary testing of some of the market boards and whatnot for the mastics behind, to try to get out ahead of the abatement process and try to expedite demolition of the building as quickly as possible. So that'll be upcoming. That's generally where we're at in terms of ongoing site activities. Lots of activity on the interior, as I'm sure Al can talk about further later on. But before I move on to sort of the schedule update and that sort of things, any questions about ongoing activities right now?
I'm sorry, I can't raise my hand. May I ask a question?
Go ahead, Chris Kiefner, and then Chris McNamara.
Actually, I'm afraid it's not a question. It's just that a clarification that came to me today was that the decking on the gym, which I had always thought was a special and complete decking, as in the solid material, is actually not. And I thought the reason we were waiting for it was because it was so specialized and it's kind of double layered and so forth. But it's really it is a decking, but it isn't. It's got holes in it for the acoustics that Jeff had mentioned. But for the moment, that's all it is. So even though there's decking, so-called decking, and I don't mean to belittle it, over the top of the gym, it's not what we have known to be decking in other places where now the rain doesn't get in.
The decking at the gym is an acoustic decking. So it was it lagged behind the other decking because it is a more specialized profile than just your standard, metal decking that exists elsewhere. So the perforations are there for acoustic properties. Jeff, you want to add to that?
Yeah, Chris, as I walked you through today, it's basically a dovetail type deck. And what they're going to add to that is the white mesh grid and then some acoustical bat insulation in between the dovetail flutes. And then on top of that is the cover, the insulation, excuse me, insulation, cover board, and roofing membrane. So the key in my mind is just to make sure they hit those dovetail flutes with the fastener so we don't see them coming through the acoustical deck. So we'll keep an eye on that, and Newfield's aware of that. So Chris, your question is basically you don't understand why it was delayed, or?
No, I just wanted, I had, I don't know if it's again or not, but I had the impression that once we got the decking, the whole thing would be covered, and it's covered, but not with a roof that keeps the rain out yet. That's all. And I just want people to understand that there's still stages to go before the place is dry inside.
That's correct. Yes, they have the other roof board and an actual roofing material to go on top. Whereas other places in the building, yes, once the metal deck was up, that provided a substantial barrier against rain. Versus this deck has perforations. So
I will just add that this is a very high acoustic. I think it's a 9.5 rating for this deck, and the dovetail detail and as part of the composite of this deck allows you to fasten things like mechanical ductwork, sprinkler piping within that, so you get a really nice clean line. And it's just it's a nice deck. It's nicer than your standard deck. So
Okay, and then Chris McNamara.
Thanks. This
And
is
then
kind of
we'll-
an old issue. I'm not sure if it's totally resolved. We had talked a lot about the sign for the school, and we had looked at a couple different mock-ups, and I'm not sure we actually settled on something. And now that have we?
have not. So that's a timely question. In coordinate, we sort of looked at the circle, if you will, that was on the stone as a initial potential sign design. In coordination with the town is currently undergoing a sort of a widespread wayfinding and signage program, and that's sort of a separate parallel initiative. So while I was asking questions of the town planner with regard to sign sizes, et cetera, this got dovetailed into that initiative. So that way there wouldn't be a brand new school sign that didn't match any of the other new signs that the town is currently designing. So currently where that sits is that the wayfinding consultant, as part of that initiative, has identified some options. And what the plan is that they will develop a schematic in advance for the school building, so it's not lagging behind with the rest of the school signs or with the rest of the town signs in terms of procurement. So in short order, we expect to see a mock-up design of the elementary school potential signage, and the consultant's working on that right now. So we don't have anything to show yet, but either next meeting or the meeting thereafter, I anticipate having something to show the committee about the next steps for that sign. So it's been working on in the background to make sure it's homogeneous with the rest of the town.
Okay, I just hope it's not going to be exactly like those other town signs, because it's a school, it's not, like a welcome to kind of thing. And the signs that have been erected since we started talking about them are very much town markers. They delineate the town from the next town, and I would hate to have that be what we had in front of our school. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to clarify, those will be similar to, is there going to be a new sign also at the middle school that this would be similar to in some way, or is that completely separate?
I mean, Kelly and Peter can jump in here, but that's part of the discussions. However, the elementary school sign specifically is being fast-tracked to contemplate the construction of the building. And then the rest of the signage for the town, including anything in the middle school, would follow as part of the broader design initiative.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. The middle school is on the list of places that would receive a sign. I don't know the date on when all the signs around town are going to go up, but the idea is to have a coordinated, visually complementary set of signs around town. So Chris, I don't know what you mean by it's not going to be the big letters that you see coming into town, right? And likely it may not even look like the big circle in the stone. I mean, part of it's going to depend on how much space we have at the school, but I have been involved, as has Peter and Adam, in these meetings. And I personally think they're coming up with some beautiful designs, and it'll be nice to see that coordination.
Okay.
Ryan, Adam, excuse me, I just wanted to touch back to something you said about the beginning of road work. Originally, we had said we were going to do that mid-May when traffic was a little bit lighter in town based on graduation and the end of the school year at UConn. And I know that a while back we talked about starting that earlier, and I just you said at that point it would be about a 90-day process.
It should be far less than that. So after the initial contractor was selected, discussions with the town engineering department of the contractor indicated they were ready and raring to go to just knock it out. So I think it's around 30 days, basically nowhere near 90 days is what the current schedule is. So the idea is the current schedule is to get final paving installed prior to UConn's commencement. So everything is done and buttoned up before that activity occurs.
How does that affect Warrenville Road and the buses going in and out of Southeast right now until the end of the school year?
As of right now, I've not heard any issues with regard to the buses coming out. I know that intersection was busy this afternoon when I left the site, but that's something we'll continue to monitor and see if there's any issues there.
I have not heard any complaints, and given the time of buses, they may even be, finished by then. And I was by there today too. It's, there's a little bit of traffic coming, from, I never know which is north or south or east or west here, but coming from what used to be the mall area up towards our office here. There's every time I've been down there, there's a little bit of traffic, but it's not terrible.
I do know the contractor has been coordinating very closely with both John and Derek with the town, and they have been very sympathetic to making sure that they're not doing any construction activities in those peak periods, and are very aware of the bus schedule.
Unless there's anything else. So really, this is just want to introduce the topic of a schedule update here. So we've had recent discussions or ongoing with discussions with Newfield, the contractor, about procurement, completion times, etc. Based on the most recent discussions and updated draft schedules, Newfield is indicating the building will not be ready for the September 6th first day of school. With the committee, we had talked previously about a number of realized and potential risks with regard to the current market conditions, et cetera. But enough of those have realized that to cause Newfield to update their projections about when the school will be completed. And now the indication is there simply isn't enough time between the delivery of some mission critical items and that September 6th date in order to facilitate the opening of school on that time. Accordingly, the plan B, so to speak, that's been floated around as something to be aware of, is something that the project team will be focusing on fleshing out, obviously with Kelly and Peter at the helm for the academic side of things. But essentially wanted to broach this topic and then have Al speak a little bit about what impacts are causing that change to the schedule, and then turn it over to Kelly and Peter to talk about the current logistic developments of Plan B as we flesh out the transition to an alternative start date in the new building. So Randy, if it makes sense to you, I think
That's
that makes
fine.
sense for Al to talk.
Yeah, Al, do you want to talk about this now? You have a schedule update later on in your contractor update, but why don't we talk about that at this point?
About the, okay, so we were notified by Sullivan Benson, our HVAC contractor, and they had a letter from their supplier stating that the DOAS unit was delayed, and they gave us a ship date at that point that was really way too late. So the DOAS unit is a direct outside air unit. It's about 12 foot wide by about 30 foot long and about 7 foot high. So we've been brainstorming the past couple of weeks how we're gonna work around this delay, because we were initially thinking we had to leave walls out just to get this unit into the building. It's right on the main level of area B. So after talks with Sullivan Benson and their supplier, they believe it's possible to get empty the carcass. I guess the problem with the DOAS unit is the motors. They cannot get the motors. So instead of installing the motors, waiting for the motors and installing them in the shop, they're recommending that they ship the empty carcasses to us in pieces so we can get them in and set, put together. And then when the motors arrive, instead of shipping to the shop or the fabricator, they can ship them directly to the site, and the technicians can come up and install the motors at the school. So with that scenario, we have a completion date on the DOAS of 9/9. And then we have to do the commissioning and the startup of the HVAC. And that would push the end date or the substantial completion date to, I have the date here. Hold on. That would push the completion date to 10/5. Now that is working on the old schedule where we did not have the parking lot complete. We had a parent drop-off lane and no parking. A little bit of parking, but not all the parking that's scheduled. So after meeting with the town and the building inspector said he needed an A2 survey in order to sign the substantial completion letter. And for that requirement, he would need the entire parking lot done or completed. So that now is the current schedule that we submitted last week. And that shows all the site work, the building being abated and demoed, all the site work in front being completed, and a substantial completion date of 10/28. So there's a difference of about 23 days, 23 calendar days between the two scenarios.
Just to jump in real quick to clarify, so Al, you were indicating that the building itself, ignoring the site elements, is currently at 10/5 is being complete? with the-
10/5, yeah. We also had a delay with the generator transfer switch. It was supposed to come in April, and now it's coming 7/29. It's quite a bit of delay there. So
Is
that
that
includes.
Is that
includes-
driving that date also? Or is it just the DOAS units that's driving that 10/5
It's
date?
It's the DOAS that's driving the end date on that, but there was also a delivery delay in the generator transfer switch.
So Al, if I can get the clarification, you said they might be able to send basically the box. If that happens, does that aid in completion, or does that mean that lets you at least close up the building and move forward? Does that help with the schedule if that happens?
Yes, it does. It helps us because we can finish the walls, because we were leaving out walls to get this big unit in, even in pieces. So if we can get the carcasses and get those in, we can finish those walls that we were going to leave unfinished. So there's a lot of drywall, taping, electric ceilings, flooring we can do until those motors get here. So we're we're working around the problem to get to a better endpoint.
Okay, a question from Rich.
Yeah, I actually have two questions. By putting the DOAS unit in piecemeal, will this add to the cost of the project? And my second question is, I'm hearing October 5th and I'm hearing October 28th. If those are the final two dates that we're settling on, does that mean that we can't move into the building until after October 28th or somewhere between October 5th and October 28th?
It depends on the balance of that parking lot. If we're going to do it before school opens or after, or have it done before school opens.
Okay.
To help
And how about the DOAS again? Would that add to the cost of it by doing it this way?
No. In the factory, these components bolt together. They assemble it all in the shop and they ship it as one piece. By giving us the boxes, they're basically installing it in the field instead of in the factory. So there's no additional cost. It's the same work. It's
Okay.
just being done in a different location.
All right,
But
thanks, Al.
it really helps us out if it goes in first. If it gets into the building, even if it's without motors. Yeah.
Randy, can I jump in real quick to talk about the
Sure.
requirements for
And
site?
then a question from Steve.
So Rich, to help expound on your question about the difference between site and building. So in meetings with the building official and other town officials, engineering, planning, et cetera, one of the requirements for certificate of occupancy is completion of the critical site elements. So you can imagine you don't want to have a building that just has mud and dirt and ambulances and fire can't get to it, et cetera. So there are certain components of the site that are required to be complete in order for the building to be able to be occupied. The indication on the schedule from Al that we received with the 10/28 date contemplates everything being substantially complete in terms of the parking lots, all the drives, all the paths, et cetera. One of the outstanding items right now is that Newfield is waiting to hear back from the Department of Transportation and get other information with regard to what extent are some of those site elements needed to be complete in order for the town to be able to be allowed to issue the certificate of occupancy. So for example, if DOT says absolutely not to some configuration, and no, it has to be all done, then it would have to be all done in order for the town to be enabled to issue a certificate of occupancy. And that's our understanding from the building official, for example. So there are other criteria that need completion, but some of that information is still outstanding.
Adam, I have an update on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, BB told us today in the contractor meeting that he got a call from DOT saying that his permit was ready to pick up. So basically he can do for the DOT work.
For the curb cut?
Yeah.
Okay, but
So he-
not for the DOT. I don't know. The DOT has opined yet on the logistics plan, have they?
Right. No, we haven't heard anything from that, but if BB gets their permit, it allows us to, you know, to cut in that bus loop once school is out, you know, so that's going to happen at least.
So that's good. But again, back to Rich, your question and point, the Department of Transportation still needs to opine as to their level of acceptance of a partial site completion, because that's a state road and they control what's allowed and not allowed in the state right-of-way portion of the site.
So somewhere between, so the move-in date would then be somewhere between October 5th and October 28th at this point, somewhere, is that safe to say or no?
Oh, that's this question for you. Is 10/28 when you're saying that the site would be substantially complete and get a certificate of occupancy?
That's a question for Al.
Yes,
Adam?
yes.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Steve had your hand up.
So with respect to the DOAS unit and putting it in different phases, do we have to worry about a quality issue where, you know, something assembled in a factory by people who do this every day and this is their only job versus somebody doing it in a field and this is like bolting it together, people know how to do it, but they don't do it regularly? Is there anything we need to worry about on that? And will it affect the warranty and any of this stuff?
No, it's actually technicians will be installing it on site. And yeah, there is no effect on the warranty. It's just, we're building it on site instead of in the shop.
And so with, you know, the generator, transfer switch, and the DOAS unit being two things that are pushing this back, are there any other key elements that are on the radar that we are nervous won't be delivered as scheduled?
Yep, we have a number of items that we haven't gotten confirmed delivery dates on. One of them is skylights, but we've discussed this with Colliers, and it's really not I mean, we'd like to have them in by the move-in date, but it's not critical. I mean, we can always put the skylights in once they're received after school opens, you know, you do it on a holiday or something like that. So it's not critical to the operation of the building. We're waiting on a list of deliveries for the lighting fixtures. We're being told that there's 4 Connex box full of light fixtures that are coming, but we don't know what types. So we're told that 80% of them are coming. So we need to figure out what's coming and what is that 20% that's not coming, and when will that come? So we need that answer. And that is about it. The balance of the zinc siding came in from France. We got that. We got a shipment of playground equipment last week, so all the playground equipment is on site. We have, you'll see in the photos today, we're starting the rigid insulation, the insulated boards around the siding where the zinc siding will go. That we have all that on site. We have most of the parts and pieces, just these few little items that, you know, like light fixtures and that sort of thing. So we're still trying to get confirmed delivery dates from the manufacturers, but even we've gotten confirmed. we got a confirmed delivery date on the switch gear, on the main gear, I mean, of April 1st. And it didn't come April 1st. We've been hounding them. And finally, we found out today that it's shipping 4/18. So, and this was right from the factory. Yes, your unit's shipping 4/1, and then it doesn't show up. And now they're saying it's going to ship on 4/18. So.
Okay, Tony?
I'm really confused. The last timeline I saw had substantial completion in the third week of August. And now you're talking not August, not September, but October, at least 2 months later.
Correct.
And I didn't understand why there is such a long period. Between the two reports. It's really confusing to me.
Yeah, it's the material delays. It's the DOAS unit, the generator transfer switch. You know.
Is it just two things have caused a 2-month delay?
Yeah, the DOAS is your outside air for your entire HVAC system. It's a critical part of the HVAC for the building.
But there's nothing, I mean, okay, just two pieces have caused a 2-month delay.
Yes.
All right.
I mean, the DOAS unit in particular, because you can't finish the walls until that gets in. I think is kind of a particularly critical one.
Seems like that probably should have been on the critical path.
When was it first ordered?
I don't have that date. I can tell you what we had on our schedule for delivery, but I don't have my old schedule here either. But it was scheduled to come, you know, like at April, May timeframe, April, May, June. That's sort of area, not August. Actually, I think it's arriving on site September. Yeah, it's arriving on site September, August 19th, and it gets complete built by 9/9 by September 9th, and then we have to start it. We have to start.
It arrives on August 9th without its motors.
Yes.
Well, Al, could you
Al-
distract us? I'm sorry, if we're still on this topic. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, Al, could you speak to, I know you said you don't have the exact dates maybe in your notes in front of you, but is it your characterization that Newfield initiated procurement of the DOAS as soon as it was possible for your organization to do so?
Yeah, well, I believe the subcontractor did, yes. It's way beyond normal for this kind of delivery of that unit. And it's not because of the unit. The unit's there. It's the motors that you can't find the motors.
Are there other questions specifically on this? Because I want to then bring in Kelly and perhaps Peter. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, and just because I've heard this a few times before, Al, I'm wondering if you could describe a little bit more about what that means, that the DOAS unit brings in the outside air, because you shared with us the need to manage the humidity in the building, and as some of the installation work goes on, I don't know where that stands. I know you were looking at a workaround for that as well, but
Yes.
Just to help people understand that this is like the engine that drives the whole building, right?
Correct. Yep. So we have a standard in place for the millwork, which is AWA standard, where it says that we have to control the humidity to no more than 55% relative humidity. So we can do that. We have temporary dehumidification units that we can put on site to monitor. We have humidity monitors that will place, 5 per wing or 10 per wing, how many we need. So it's doable, but it just takes a lot of those portable dehumidification units to make it work. Right now, it's not bad because the humidity on a non-rainy day is about 40%. But then it rains, it will get to 100 real quick.
And I'll just remind everybody that millwork includes all those wooden ceilings, correct?
Yep, wooden ceilings, cabinets, display cases. There's a lot of there's almost $2 million worth of millwork on this project.
Okay.
It also affects non-millwork items like ceiling tiles and so forth.
Okay. Oh, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, just before we lose Al, I was wondering if did you happen to do any of your drone photography this round?
Yes, I got it. Ben was able to get 3 pictures and then the drone died, but I got 3 pictures for today.
We'll come back on when it's on the agenda. I'll show those pictures.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, Mary?
I just wanted to ask Rich's same question from earlier. Al, you mentioned if the skylights had to be installed after the building was occupied, does that add to the cost? Do we
No.
incur a cost for that?
No, we own installing them. It's just we're not doing it when we should. We can't install them if we don't have them.
Okay. Thanks.
And with those, they're not even going to tell us when they're going to make them. So we certainly don't know when we're going to get them.
Okay. So Kelly and Peter, then this is going to land squarely in your lap as school opening in the fall. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that might look like?
Sure. So just so everybody is aware, we've been following this project since the beginning, realizing that there could be issues with procurement or other things that come up on a construction site. And we actually started having conversations about, gee, what would we do with Plan B? I have told the public that I know that we could manage for a short period of time in 2 buildings instead of the 3 that we currently have in use as elementary schools. So we've had some conversation, and I don't have all of the details worked out, but we're getting pretty close. So I'll give you the broad scope. We know that we can bus within our comfort limits of amount of time children are on buses to 2 elementary schools next fall. And we are committed to ensuring that students have as little transition as possible, meaning that they would certainly not have to change teachers. And the reason I say that is because one of the goals that we've been working on all year is ensuring that we're creating a new community as we consolidate these 3 schools, and that we're giving teachers and children opportunities to interact among all of the teachers and children in Mansfield. And so the solution is not to keep all of the Vinton teachers and children at Vinton School and all of the Goodwin teachers and children at Goodwin School and just split up the Southeast kids. That would not help us achieve our goals. Even if we did it, and if we did it to start the year, we might have to change teachers to achieve our goals. We don't want to do that either. So the plan that we've come up with is to split the children by grades. You may remember a long time ago when we first had conversations about what to do about our schools. One of the models that we said could be a possibility is to do a primary or an early childhood school and an intermediate school. So this is sort of like that. Children in grades pre-K, K, and 1 will attend school at Vinton, and children in grades 2, 3, and 4 will attend school at Goodwin. We will make sure that all of the appropriate equipment and instructional materials follow those teachers into those schools. We've already in our meetings with teachers about packing and moving, told them, and this was some weeks ago, told them, hey, you know, supply chain and other construction needs could prevent us from getting into that school on time. So we've talked about strategies on how to pack and what needs to be moved. There'll be more of that happening now. But I think we've got a plan that can work. And I also think that while there may be some disappointment at not being there right away in September, we can make this part of the adventure of coming together. And, you know, our teachers, as many of you know, are great people, incredibly resilient, and just desiring to make sure that we give children the best experience possible. And while this is certainly a hiccup, I don't see this preventing us from having a wonderful experience in this new building when it is ready to open.
Okay. Chris?
It sounds great, Kelly. And I know, I love the way you said that it could be an adventure. Everything can be part of the learning process. And I think that's a great attitude to have. So hats off to you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've had a conversation with a parent who feels very strongly that parents should be involved in some way with the decision about how to manage this. So I hope you have plenty of opportunity for parents to express their concerns or comfort or discomfort, whichever it is, with the solution.
So Mansfield Elementary School has a newly appointed PTO board, and Lauren and I had some conversations last night about starting with involving the PTO board. There will be a communication that will go to the community, hopefully as soon as tomorrow, letting the community know about this. The timing's a little rough because tomorrow is a state holiday and next week is our spring break week. But we'd like to get a communication out. And then, yes, there will be not just more information going to parents, but we're intending to do, as we did during the earlier days of the pandemic, some virtual meetings where parents can hear more of the details and ask more questions. But I'm going to be honest with everybody, any configuration other than what I just described, as far as grades and where children go, would be next to impossible to achieve with transportation. That has to be the primary consideration, unfortunately. And it's not a matter of getting more buses or spending more money on transportation. If you haven't heard, there's a shortage of bus drivers. And by the way, there's a shortage of buses as well. So buying a new bus is much harder than buying a new car or getting a DOAS unit, it sounds like. So we've explored all of those possibilities. So I do think we have some limits to how we can configure the grades in classrooms.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Other questions on this topic? Brian, I see your hand, but we'll let you to have address us in public comment. Okay, then Adam, do you have other items to share with us?
No, that's it for me tonight.
Okay, then that brings us to the architect's update. Jeff?
Yeah, so basically I've been visiting the site quite a bit these days and making a bunch of site observation reports and flagging items as I see them. And we had a lengthy discussion in the trailer today to just make sure that we have an understanding about when these things are fixed or corrected, how they will send me a picture and they'll give me a estimated time of completion so that I can make sure that these things are being taken care of as we proceed through the building of the project. So we just have to stay rigorous to make sure all these things are caught. It looks like the trestle tree positions were set in place, so those look good. So we're just chipping away at these site observation reports. And that's basically it.
Okay, questions for Jeff? Kelly?
Jeff, can I ask for a clarification? You've called these things trestle tree supports. Are you talking about where we would attach cables and ropes for the indoor ropes course?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I've just always termed them the trestle trees
Okay.
as a structural kind of metaphor, just to make sure that, you know, that we understand that those are going to be supporting kids and all kinds of things that they do during the trestle tree. So I just want to make sure those are set right, level, plumb, everything reinforced, because those have to be done right. So yeah, so they're trestle trees, basically the supports is what I'm calling them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Jeff? Chris?
Jeff, are you seeing anything that's, well, two questions on this. Are you seeing anything that in the future is going to cause us further delay? Would be question one. And question two, what kind of response are you getting on your, the trestle tree issue had gone on for at least a couple of meetings. Are you getting the kind of responsiveness that we need?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I think that thing we have to remember is that Newfield is trying, by moving around, mobilizing in different areas based on some of these delays. So I got to give them that. They're quick on their feet. They do move around the building when they need to. And they have their own way of doing means and methods and procuring and mobilizing. And for me, sometimes, unfortunately, I'm not building this building. So I kind of have certain quality issues that I want to make sure are there. And I get sometimes emotional about that. So I just want to make sure things are tight, the craftsmanship is there, and then everybody's proud of this building in the end. And even if it's a little detail or a way the white light comes in or reveal, those are important to me. They have to be done right. So if I see anything that might be heading off that track, I'm going to stick my finger in the fire and just say, guys, you got to make sure this is done. I'm going to be checking this. I'll pull it apart. I'll see if it's done right. If it's not, we'll have a discussion. So far, certain things are being remediated and corrected. There are a couple issues, important ones that I got my eyes on. So we'll see in the next week or two, how those pan out. But so far, they're working on it.
Thank you.
Tony?
One of the things I've been concerned about all along is when we're working against such a tight clock.
Yeah.
That you end up hurrying, and you start out saying perfect is perfect. By the time you're done, good enough is perfect. And I just really want to make sure that we're still operating on closer to perfect than to good enough.
Yes, I agree.
Actually, may I ask another, Randy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Tony's question is interesting because we're in this rush mode, or feeling like we've got to push. But in a sense, this gives us, Al, cover your ears. This gives us a little kind of a leeway, to the extent that we're not going to be ready anyway. Is the work being done carefully, or are the workers being told to rush, and stuff is not happening as to the quality that you'd expect? And that would be a question for Scott, for Adam, for Joe, and for Jeff, or anybody who thinks they can comment on it with relevance. I mean, is this an opportunity that we should take advantage of, in a sense?
For us, it helps immensely, because we have the extra time. Once we get to a point where we can start punch listing, it just gives us that much longer to really correct these items and do it right. And you know, I think you'll get a much better building just because we have the extra time that, you know.
I will say, Scott from Colliers, I will say, you know, again, today it was reiterated at the OAC meeting that, you know, quality will not take second fiddle to getting this job completed. You know, you've heard Jeff in his comments and his overview. We've got our construction rep who's out in the field. Any deficiencies, reports are being filed every time that people are out in the field. And then those are going onto logs and those issues are being corrected. You know, at the same point, you know, on the flip side, we are not going to, you know, if we do not see the progress that we expect from the entire construction team, we're going to be pushing hard on them. You know, this is not an excuse to take your foot off the pedal. We want an absolutely magnificent building with top-notch quality. We also want it delivered in time because we do understand that there still are time implications of getting this building open. And so it is critical to get this building open as soon as possible, constructed properly, and you know, in the best quality that both the design team and Colliers and Newfield can deliver.
Just to add my 2 cents on it, I don't know that I get your point, Chris, with regard to additional time. In my mind, I don't see it as an opportunity one way or the other. The scope is the scope, and the schedule is the schedule, and both have to be met. So, it is, you know, we and, you know, Jeff and Joe are putting together their observation reports, you know, weekly, and I'm walking the site multiple times a week. As issues comes up, they get point out and need to be resolved. So it's not a standpoint of, you know, Newfield having more time or anything to that effect. And again, your points noted, but from the standpoint of QA, QC and reviewing the project and managing what's getting actually installed, nothing's changed in that regard. It still needs to be put in, it needs to be right, and it needs to be done in an expeditious manner and keep moving along.
Well, so when I look at the pictures like that Jeff has shown us several times, which I think are of different items, where I don't know what the thing is called, but where the pieces don't match. They're just, these are like the trims at the bottom, and they're still, whether they're still not matching or they continue to install them so that they're not matching, it's like, what's going on here? And now we can do it perhaps a little more carefully. Maybe these guys need a little more guidance or something. By these guys, I mean the contractors themselves. But it's, are we improving our work? Now we have a little bit of a chance to. So, or we should have done it right, yes, in the first place, but my God, let's get it right. But again, I have this view because I keep seeing these pictures from Jeff that it's another one that's screwed up. Oh, here's another one that's, and maybe screwed up is the wrong word, that don't align. There's another one that doesn't align. Could we please stop doing that?
Steve?
So back in February, I brought up, you know, Al's major concern in February was procurement, and it still seems to be quite a concern or quite an issue for us. And so I guess my question is, how do we know that we're not going to encounter more delays with procurement? I remember back in September, really in June when we started, the first thing we did was, or first thing that was done was subcontractors were picked and things were procured, which I guess just means ordered. But in this particular environment, which I get is very, very unusual, ordering it and having the supplier tell you they'll get it to you isn't good enough anymore. And so I'm really concerned that we don't know if we're going to have all the light fixtures, and we don't know when we will. Like, we have 80% of them shipping, but we can't tell 20% of the kids, sorry guys, you don't get light fixtures, right? Like, this is a critical element. So I go back to the exact same comment I brought up in February is, I'd like to see everything that is procured on site tomorrow. Like, if they give you a delivery date of July, that's great, but that doesn't mean anything in this particular market. And this same issues bit us like multiple times. And it's how many times are we going to keep getting delayed because things are not getting delivered when they said they were going to get delivered, and we know they're not going to get delivered. So let's find out early. You know, if we say, hey, we need those today or tomorrow, and we put them in a Connex box. We find other places in town where we can store them. At least that's not going to keep on delaying things, because I know now we're shooting for 10/28 or whatever it is, but that's without knowing when the rest of these skylights are going to be here, when the other light fixtures are going to be here, or whatever the next thing to come in that doesn't come in when it's supposed to happen.
Okay. Jeff, do you have any other comments?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Al, do you want to then give us your update on progress?
Sure, I'll share screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so just an aerial view of the A-wing. They've been working on the clear story. There's an angle that goes across there. They've got that installed. Most of the work in A-wing is being done on the inside. We'll get to that. It's an aerial shot of, this is the high roof area. I don't know if you can see my cursor. We had an issue with the clips that hold up the glue lamb beams in this area. We had a conflict between the glue lambs and the clips, so we had to change the clips. And that took us about 2 weeks to accomplish that. That got done earlier this week, and they were able to put the decking on. Now we have to build the sidewalls, the clear story walls between the high roof and the low roof. We're going to do it on the gym side first. Once that's in, then we can start roofing the gym. So that's what's holding us up on the gym right now, is getting these clear story walls built and sheathed. Once that's done, we're looking at probably the week after next to do the roofing in the gym. Once the clear story walls are done at the gym, they'll come over to A-wing. They'll do those, button that up, and then they'll go over to B-wing and button those walls up. So we're looking probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks of being closed in, which would be nice. You can see we started doing the insulated panels here in B. And this is a shot of the other side of the gym. You can see the high roof. They've done their framing and sheathing of the gym. These are curtain wall openings. These are window openings. It wraps around the other side. Also here, they finished the AVB in B-wing. The black is where the zinc panel siding will go. And the blue is where the E-pay siding will go. This is the pump house. We got the slab poured today. Site contractor's been finishing up the exterior drainage, bringing all his smaller pipe to the building to get the rain leaders. We're also doing our last electrical conduit run. Right now, we have multiple conduits and 2 trenches that will go to the pump house and the various structures out here. That should be complete mid next week. This is a shot of the gym area. These are curtain wall areas here. This is E-pay siding area. This is zinc. Once the once that site work is done, he's going to come down here. We're going to remove these propane tanks. We don't need those anymore. And he's going to start prepping this for, we'll prep a slab for the tank and start doing prep for asphalt drives and sidewalks. These are the zinc panels that started this week. Not the zinc panels, the insulated panels for the zinc. There's 2 crews, one starting that end and the other starting this end, so they're going to meet somewhere over here. We're also getting this area ready for insulated panels once this section's done. So there's 7 guys just doing insulated panels. This is the gym. It got poured today. They're finishing it. This was about noontime. These are the, this is the high roof over the cafe. These are the glue lamb beams. The decking's been installed. These are the clear story walls that we're starting to build right now. So in a few weeks, this will all be enclosed. This poly will come down. We'll start doing this ornamental rail. It's going to take shape pretty fast once we get closed in. This is area A. Remember last time we had just poured the slab. Now we've done all our markouts for our mechanicals, and we've started laying out walls, and we've started building walls in A. There's all the roof leaders are connected except for 3 roof leaders over here, and I believe he's going to be he was going to have that work complete by the end of the day today, so hopefully that's done. So we're not going to get any more rain inside this area. You see, you started building walls here already. This is area B upper. This is about 2 weeks behind B lower. He's getting a lot of mechanicals up in the air. He's been doing a lot of drywall one-sided just to get ahead. We're insulating duct now in the classrooms. Once this duct installation is inspected, we'll build a soffit that goes here, and then we'll finish the drywall and taping. This is area B lower. You can see the level of finish. All the pipe is insulated, all the duct is insulated, all the sprinkler lines are in, all the drywall has been taped 3 coats. They're sanding now. The painter is starting next week on prime and first coat paint. We'll have the bathrooms finished drywall next week. They get drywall ceilings. And then we'll get ready for ceramic tile in those areas. This is a shot of the classrooms in area B lower. You see a lot of the ductwork is being insulated. So they've actually started hanging ceiling grid wire in certain rooms down in AB. So once the painter goes through and primes and first coats the walls, you'll see the ceiling grid be going in down here. And then the mechanicals will start dropping their heads for fire sprinkler heads, their lights, diffusers, ductwork, that sort of thing. So it's coming along. This is the new critical path for March. The blue line represents today. Anything that's dark is complete. The red is incomplete. So you see, we're a little ahead on some areas over here, which is area C lower. So that might take it off the critical path next update. And this just became on the critical path today. This is area C. This is the same boat that's going to come off the critical path probably next time once we catch up, get the roof on. And this is the site work that is now critical to the 10/28 completion date if we need to get the A2 survey for substantial completion. And then I put up the substantial, I figured out with this substantial completion with the equipment day and without the whole parking lot would be 10/5 up here. That is all I have.
Okay, questions for Al? Steve, I see your hand.
What point in the year do we have to start worrying about not being able to pave? Like, will the asphalt plants shut down and we can't get asphalt for our parking lot?
Normally on a normal year, you can get asphalt through December, early December anyways. I think we have all our paving scheduled to be completed in October, which is the perfect time to do it.
And if there were delays with things like skylights or light fixtures, that would not delay the outside site stuff. That is all based upon the demolition of Southeast.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? You might have to speak up. I can't see everybody. Oh, did I see Mary?
Not sure that my question is for Al, so
Okay.
if it needs to be saved for another time, that's fine. But a while back, Richard had been at a meeting and we were talking about the arrival of the FF&E and that stuff being housed in the gym at Southeast School. And so I'm wondering what the plan is for that. If the school is being demolished quickly after the end of the students and the teachers' academic year, can it go into new classrooms or not until everything is complete? And then where does it go?
So this is probably a question for me. So this is Adam with Colliers. So the arrival of FF&E was originally slated end of July or basically early August, with the intention of it being staged and assembled in the gym, and then subsequently going out to their various areas as they were assembled and complete. The arrival and installation of FF&E can occur prior to the building being occupied. You know, that was a question that was posed to the building official, and that isn't necessarily an issue. The item that does need to get ironed out with Newfield as the schedule is tweaked and refined, and Colliers is, we just received the schedule, you know, a day or two ago, so we're still reviewing it. But the item that needs to be ironed out is, now that the schedule has changed, their Newfield has changed it, what do the individual areas look like at various times? So we don't want to have the furniture show up on, let's say, August 5th, if there's, to your point, nowhere to put it, or the rooms aren't done, or what have you. So if there's still the opportunity to get the furniture in a manner that makes sense, and the areas are all punched out, as we call it, so there's no other identified contractual obligations in those rooms, then we can have the furniture installed. If those areas aren't going to be ready, then we'll have to coordinate with the vendors to reschedule when the furniture will arrive, so it's not being shown up and then put into a partially constructed place and then maybe smashed with paint or what have you. So the answer to that question is we're identifying what the impact is of this schedule update on the delivery of the FF&E. But ultimately, the plan would still be to have it delivered to the new building, assembled and installed. It's just a matter of when.
And using that gym as the staging area.
That would initially be the thought, but again, the key driver for the gym, for example, is when the flooring is going to be done. So furniture would have to arrive either beforehand, so it's not messing up this partially finished floor where you have drying wax and paint and whatnot, or after it's complete and then protected with, you know, floor covering or whatnot. So that way it's not affecting the finished floor, but they have a flat, large surface to assemble. So again, we're reacting to what we're seeing with the updated schedule and ironing out those details.
Okay. Thanks. I know you'll have updates for us.
Yep.
Okay, other questions for Al? Okay, then thank you, Al, for that update.
You're welcome.
That brings us to PCO and procurement review. We don't have any today, so we'll move right on. That brings us to opportunity for public input. Brian, are you going to? Yes, go ahead, Brian. And just before you begin, Brian, for the committee, since we've not had public people come and talk, public input is not a conversation. It is an opportunity to let public speak to us. Brian, you'll have 5 minutes, and then we can take things under advisement, but we're not going to turn into a conversation. So go ahead, Brian.
Okay. Randy, I sent you an email. Were you able to distribute that to the school committee?
I have not yet, but I can do that.
All right. I'm concerned about the contamination and the drinking water at the Southeast School. According to the water test, there's 3 volatile organic compounds, which could lead to cancer. Methyl bromide benzene, chlorofluorobenzene. I think there's some barium and some lead. I have written the health department, provided the test to the health department, and I'm awaiting an answer from them on just how dangerous those levels may be to our children. I also wrote the DEP, Peter Hearn over at the DEP, waiting to hear back from him. When Randy sends you the email, please read it carefully and consider the danger that exists over at Southeast School. Thank you.
Okay, and we will absolutely follow up with a response to that. Is there anybody else in the public that would like to address the committee? I don't see anybody else online. And so with that, I would accept a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Chris Kiefner, and second, Chris McNabo. Then all in favor can log off, and we will see you next time. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Randy.
Bye, everyone.